Let's take a look at this 6'11", 250-pound restricted free agent center for the Phoenix Suns, DeAndre Ayton. The 23-year-old former number 1 overall pick does most of his damage in the pick and roll as a roll man, and I wanted to highlight the different ways in which he puts pressure on the defense. Obviously, a guy you can go and throw it up to, and he's able to go and finish, as you see there over Giannis. 85 possessions where he finished with a dunk or an alley-oop. And I really like this one against the Kings where he shows great body control, gets his eyes back on the rim, and is able to finish that one. But it's not just those possessions. He does a great job knowing where to screen, how to screen, and where to roll to, and recognize what the defense is doing. Here, his man goes for the block, so he's going to follow up the play with the one-hand tomahawk offensive rebound finish where he averaged 2.6 offensive rebounds per game this past season. He also has great gravity in these situations, and that puts a lot of pressure on the defense. He is in it a lot. He sets a lot of ball screens, rolls, and it's just going to put a lot of pressure on the defense to always play it the right way. So whether they get worried about the lob, whether there's miscommunication, he's also going to get teammates open looks because of the gravity he possesses as a roll man. He's also able to catch, put it on the deck one time. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but you see him play through contact there and finish. You notice he didn't use his left hand, not something he does a lot. We'll touch on that a little bit later as well. One thing he really has a habit of doing is going to this spin move here. Not able to finish this one, but again, goes and grabs an offensive rebound and then goes to his favorite little hook over his left shoulder. That little spin move is something he really likes to go to also. I did start to have some questions about his hands as I watch more and more film, and I'll show it with each different play type. But here on the catch, he fumbles it. In this Thunder game, he had a few of these. And then as we move into the short roll, you're going to see it after the ball is already in his hands. And so this plays into it a little bit. If you think there's more to DeAndre Ayton's game, big picture, I have some questions about his ability to create like in an isolation type situation as he puts it on the deck a couple times and then fumbles it out of bounds on that possession. And then as we stick with the short roll, I didn't see the passing that I was hoping to see. You see him go to his spin here, which is kind of just a comfort zone thing for him, where the passes were open right on the catch. And I think if there's one thing he's got to get better at, he eventually gets it here and still has an advantage for his team to attack this closeout. But if I think there's one thing he has to get better at in the short roll, it's making a quick decision. Right now, okay, go ahead and throw it to Bridges or recognize that Sabonis has cheated in and you can throw it to Crowder. He eventually gets the ball somewhere it needs to go and where his teammate still has an advantage, but he was just a little bit slow processing it at times with those passes. And then you see the little floater shot there, which we'll talk about more in just a second. He misses that one, but it's a shot I think I buy in with DeAndre Ayton. And then this isn't obviously a short roll possession, but I just wanted to show the processing with the passing as well. Teammate has been open for a second here, and it's just now leaving his hand. So he's late, he's inaccurate, it's behind, and it ends up in a turnover instead of an assist and a bucket. He only averaged 1.4 assists per game to 1.6 turnovers per game. So I do think the passing has to get better. Now the short roll scoring is something I buy in. So here you see him short roll. Again, so proficient in rolling to the right spot, knowing where the defense is at, and then makes the little floater. And then also the jumper. He was only 8 of 17 from the mid-range in pick and roll situations, just in roll situations. But this is a tough shot as he rolled out of that ball screen and knocks it down. And we'll talk about the jumper in general a little bit later. Now let's look at post-ups, which is actually his second most used play type. And again, the hands are going to come into play as he fumbles this pass on the entry. So the hands just continue to show up. But again, it was almost in specific games and multiple times. And then he wouldn't show it at all in a couple other games. Maybe just a focus thing. And then the passing. And I will admit Cam Johnson could help him out by lifting on this one. Jay Crowder makes the cut. But I just would have liked to see Ayton get this pass out of his hands quicker to the weak side and create that advantage for his team. If you're going to play through him in the post and he's going to get doubled, he's got to be able to pass out of it. Now looking at his scoring, he's going to go to two things. A hook shot over his left shoulder, all with his right hand. He took no left-handed hook shots, but he made the right-handed ones at 62%. And then a fadeaway jumper, which I'll show as well. So here against Sabonis, catches, just kind of isolation. He gets pushed away from the basket. He's not really going to be a bully guy, not against bigs. He can bully smaller players when he gets a mismatch. But there you see him get pushed away, but it doesn't matter. And then I do think he has great timing on the duck in. So you'll see here as the drive comes, times it up, boom, ducks in. Great timing on that. And then again, over the left shoulder, right-handed hook shot. And then the other one is the fadeaway jumper. Again, this one over his right shoulder. Usually from this block with the fadeaway jumper, as you see, it's really smooth and able to knock that one down there. And then let's continue with the shooting. So between 10 feet and the three-point line, he shot 53% on pretty good volume. So here in transition, he steps into one, able to knock it down. I showed the pick and short roll earlier. Here it's going to be a little bit more of like a pick and pop, but with the hand in his face, gets his feet set, able to knock it down. The jumper looks true to me. And again, if you're looking at giving him a max deal, how can he expand his game if he goes to another team? You would probably talk about his three-point shooting. So he was only 7 of 19, but that's 37% from three on very, very, very low volume. But I did want to just put it in as you see him knock that one down against the Pacers as well. Now, continuing with that, again, what's his all-around game? What else can he expand? I didn't see him do much of this where he faced up and then attacked a defender. Maybe you don't need him to do that, but again, if you're going to pay him max money, maybe it's something you want to be able to see him do, but in general, he would just kind of jab step and go to that face-up jumper. And then to round out his offensive game, you got to look at the offensive boards and in the dunker spot. I mentioned the 2.6 offensive rebounds. That's great, but it was the lowest of his young 4-year career. And one thing I think he could be better at is recognizing position and keeping it. Here he had position on the roll, but he gives it up as Porzingis comes in, gets a hand on that one. See it again here. He's inside of Miles Turner. The shot's going to go up. He should be boxing out. Instead, he's going to get pushed out, and I do think he could add a little bit of strength to his lower body or just play with a lower center of gravity. What I was hoping for is more of this, where he's actually on the outside of the defense, and you see him work around and anticipate and go grab an offensive rebound like that. So again, in the ball screens, he rolled, he timed those up well. I just would have liked to see a few more of the variety that I just showed. And then as a dunker spot guy, I actually think he does a great job moving off ball. When there's a drive, he finds the open spot, his hands are ready, and he's ready to step in and finish, as you do see one of those left-handed finishes on that possession. But as I've talked about multiple times on all the different play types, he has a little bit of struggle with his hands. A lot of these from this Thunder game. Maybe the focus was off, but it is something that I just wanted to highlight. Now let's look at the defensive side of the ball, where in ball screens, you're going to see DeAndre Ayton almost always in drop coverage, and I think he's a very good drop coverage player. He doesn't overcommit, usually does a pretty good job staying in front of the guards, as you see here against Buddy Hield. Eventually has to commit to it because Booker doesn't get back, but contests the shot, ends up in a turnover. Same thing here against the Thunder. Crowder's not going to get back, so now he commits to SGA, stays in front, uses his length to contest what SGA thought was going to be a shot, ended up in a turnover, and one more against the Mavs. Obviously in drop coverage, you're going to give up some mid-range shots, but he at least contests it, gets a miss there. So I do think he does a good job not overcommitting, which this possession I feel like really highlights. So he's playing both, but he's going to stay in front. Bridges gets back, so now he's going to get back to his man, and he does a really good job of that. Now Bridges gets beat, so he gets back and contests the shot. We're going to talk a lot about this. Not a guy that blocks a ton of shots, just kind of stays down and stays home a lot. And that might be a preference on whether you'd like to see him block more shots or not. But what it does allow is him not to give up the offensive rebounds on the weak side and go get a defensive rebound like he does there. Now, obviously, it's not perfect. At times, he can plant his feet just a little bit too much, allowing the offensive player to blow by. And then he just doesn't have the recovery ability and the anticipation and quickness off the floor to contest the shot at the rim. You're going to see it again here with SGA. Gets him to plant his feet. So now Ayton opens up his hips and then trying to recover and get that block. And he's just not able to do it as much as maybe you would like. And then as the roll guy, again, he doesn't overcommit very much, but at times he was struggled of getting back in front. And then again here, he does great with the verticality, 2 hands straight up, making it a tougher shot, but just doesn't go and block as many of those as maybe as what I anticipated or what you would want with his size and length. And then I know people are going to have questions about his ability to be switchable in ball screens. Not something I saw a lot in the film I watched, as they almost always had him in drop coverage, but there were some possessions. So here against Brunson, he just knows he can use his length and his size, give space, and is able to stay down, stay in front, and not give anything up. Against Chris Middleton, you see him hug up just a little bit, able to slide his feet, flip his hips, and then contest that mid-range shot, forcing a tough shot from Middleton. So I don't think it's a thing where all of a sudden you're going to go 50-50 between drop and switch, but I think there's a little bit more there than maybe what I anticipated going into the breakdown. Even here against SGA, he stays in front, moves his feet, eventually gives up an advantage, and then again it comes down to how quick he can get off the ground and anticipate that shot, and he's just not able to do it. So I think that's where my biggest questions are with him as a rim protector as we finish off the breakdown with that, and not just ball screens, but just in all situations. He's not a guy that's always going to overcommit, which I think can be a really good thing. It won't end up in blocked shots. He only averaged 0.7 this past season, the lowest of his 4-year career, but his presence eliminates a shot attempt from Russell, and then because he didn't leave his feet, it also eliminates a shot attempt from his man cutting to the basket, and so he protects the paint in that way. Now, I will admit, with that said, there were times where I still would have liked to see him go up and contest a shot and block it at the rim. Like there, I would have liked to see him recognize that and pin that one on the backboard. Here against the Kings, teammate's going to give up a backdoor. Would have liked to see him on this pass here rise up and go up and contest and be able to react to that a little bit quicker. And finally against the Spurs, the same thing. He's committed to the driver. I would have liked to see him be able to contest that one just a little bit better and block that shot. So he does leave just a little bit there in terms of protecting right at the rim with block shots.